Hello and welcome to Simplifying the Holidays. I'm your host, Stephana Johnson. I'm very excited to have a lovely guest. Her name is Yvonne St. Louis, and she is an international known coach and author and the founder and creator of Connect with Your Heart. You can also find her through connectwithyourheart.com. So Yvonne, thank you so much for joining me in Simplifying the Holidays and sharing your insight around this very big topic of how we navigate through the holidays and how we can be more connected with our hearts and be more connected with our families during this time. I would love to start with how you have used your tools and created them to simplify and connect with your heart.
Well, Stephana, it's an honor to be here with you and to share with you a way to navigate to the heart and essentially find that GPS that really brings us home in our heart. So, for the Christmas holiday, for myself, I look at the essence of it. The essence of it is to celebrate the love of Christ, which for me represents the sacred flame of the heart. So, above anything else, I warm my heart with this and it brings me a well-being. It is a magical time for the heart. If we look at all of the decorations that are around, the angels, the lights, the Christmas trees, it opens up the heart to such beauty. Beauty essentially is what opens up the heart. It's a way of opening up to this beautiful, loving energy. And what I find important is to be very simple and easy with this by valuing, to begin with my values. So I will really get to my 4 or 5 most important values, and I will give my time, my attention, my money to this. I will invest where it's worthy for me. So I will give this attention. I will not get caught up in the stores with a lot of too much food, alcohol, or gifts. I will really go with what I value. And what I value, people are important. So for me, I value the time that I spend with the people that are important for me. So this is one thing. Another thing that I really value is play. I find that this magical time is a playful time for my inner child for sure, and also with the people that I'm around. So this for me brings back childhood memories that I had where I grew up in a family of 7 children, and my father always bought a social game that everybody would play together. So it's just a being together and playing.
That is so
Now,
beautiful. Yeah, the connection, the games, that's something we have very much in common. Everything you've been saying is so it's very empowering to hear, but it's also reinforcing to. I think that what you're saying is such grounded in truth that anyone listening is, oh yes, I forgot, and it's almost like we get permission to reevaluate our values and reevaluate where we are with them. You mentioned the GPS, the navigation device, as soon as you entered the call, and I thought, that's perfect because it allows us to see whether or not we are on the right path in this time. We can do a check-in before we get caught up in the complications. Yeah.
yes. And also, what is important with coming back to playing games, what happens is, regardless who it is in the family, when we play a game, everyone is at the same level. And this is a great way to connect together, you know?
Oh, that's great. Yes, that's a really good call. And no matter what's happening, if there's an old story going on, coming into a new neutral game where people just can be playful and have fun, that's brilliant. That's really a lovely idea. And not that it should be given as a gift, but it just reminded me, like, I'm going to go look for a new game that our family can play. And maybe that could be a new tradition of bringing in, whether it's an old game or a new game, where we can express our creativity, like you were saying, express that
Yeah,
childhood,
yeah.
that youthful expression of abundant joy and play. How
And
fun.
play and teasing each other with lightness. What else is important that I find is to create my own rituals. So I will not be imposed with what society does. I will take what's good for me, and from there, I will do my own rituals. I remember, when I was a single mom with my son, and I did invent a ritual for us in which we wrote down, I created just this little thing where I wrote on a piece of paper, and so did my son, little things that happened throughout the year. And we would each have our little brown bag to put it in. And thereafter, like, we would share. And if he had some stuff that was really, really intimate for him, he didn't want to share, I respected that. And I also did the same for me. And thereafter, we just folded up the bag, and I had a fireplace place then. And we just like throw it in the fire and welcome in the new. So to create ritual that, because people remember moments, is little moments that are important.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
isn't that the truth?
it
How
is.
lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, if you were to look at the concept around, because you're really addressing the heart, and you mentioned this a few times in different ways, but would you be able to maybe clarify a little bit more about the heart and how, we have our typical meaning of what the heart is, but from your experience, and especially being a professional in this, and what can you define it more for us? Maybe give us a broader picture of heart and what that is, what that really means, and does that make sense? The question I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The way that I really define the heart is with light-hearted feelings, something that makes me feel light, as opposed to an emotion which is a visceral survival emotional energy. It really feels heavy because an emotion has a judgment tied to it, and it affects self-acceptance. And of course, it's triggered by a thought or a false belief. What am I telling myself? And sometimes it's really to turn it over in the head, and it gets heavy, and emotionally it can be draining, as opposed to a heartfelt feeling feels light, and it's held by grace. So this is how I make the difference with the heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of other things when you were talking about the heart, and you were talking about angels and other concepts, and I would like to see how. So I just drew this big picture of the heart, and I see the different connections or the different ways that we can enhance that lightheartedness. You mentioned angels. You mentioned a few other things. What else can we do to bring that lightheartedness, to practice that lightheartedness, to connect with that lightheartedness, that grace?
Yeah, okay. Is to be really anchored and present. So, for example, is just to take a few breaths and really be present physically. And thereafter, there is some emotional tension or energy or thoughts that will come up, and allow them to come up, and take a moment just to be with the reality of what it is. And thereafter, just simply by putting the hand gently over the heart, to be present in my heart and say, okay, I open my heart to something bigger, come and sit in my heart. So that's one way of being anchored and settling down and being in the heart.
So when you talk about the heart, you are talking about the physical body and the aorta, and you're talking about that.
Everything, because when there's an emotion, usually it's a tension point somewhere in the body. For me, it's in my gut area.
Okay.
And when there's something happening there, I know that it's related to emotion, ego, survival issue. It's something that I need to resolve, an energy that wants to be resolved. So then, therefore, I will work with this and be present, and then I will take it to heart just to open up, because the ego is that part which is like a veil that causes a separateness from our sacred essence. So I value the sacred essence, and I edge out this part that limits me from feeling grace in my heart. So grace is a human need, and it's also so essential for the heart, for the soul. So not only emotions, however, other lighthearted feelings.
Such as
There's grace, of course, there's joy, and there's other human existential feelings that are difficult to feel, which are grief, which is loneliness, which is heartache from disconnection. There's rage from injustice, and when it's properly channeled, it causes a movement, and a few other feelings. But essentially, these feelings, when they're allowed to flow through, there's a serenity that holds this.
wow.
Does this make sense for you?
It's so beautiful what you've just said, and I think I'm still kind of processing it, because you've just you've just walked us through a process. Would you be willing to walk us through that process, because clearly you know it viscerally for yourself? Could you walk us through this process again, but more in really simplified terms? Would you be willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's say that I'm feeling really tense, or there's a nervousness that I feel, or it could be anxiety. If I don't take care of it, the anxiety will get really strong.
Okay.
And so then it's just to breathe and just say, okay, you're allowed to be there. And then secondly, I will sort of want to stay a little bit detached from this energy, because I know that if my ego gets involved, then it will run with it, and I will not be present in my heart. So then I will ask myself, what am I telling myself to make myself feel this way? Or what am I doing? Or is this caused by another person? What's happening? Does another person have an impact on me? So I will just be present there to own this reality.
Okay.
And from there, I will just take it to heart. And then from here, that I'm present in my heart, I will just edge out the ego. I will gain discernment and get to a higher truth. Is this what I'm feeling true? Yes or no? Is it touching a very sensitive string? And this is where I have a very simplified, structured 5-step process to really go deeper into this and gain discernment. And that's where the transformation occurs. And there I know that my heart is fully open.
Yeah.
And from there, I could take it to a higher level and really be inspired with what is loving for me to think and to do with this situation. And if I'm impacted by another person, for example, who are not essentially emotionally available for themselves, we will not be able to connect from the heart, because they're not present emotionally. They're disconnected from themselves, so I cannot connect with them, so therefore I will have compassion. And there's many other ways of dealing with this, but I'm just going through this like in a simplified way.
That's great.
Does this answer your...
Yes, it's beautiful. And it's fun to see how fellow coaches do this work, because observation is it's a key step in my process of from piloting your way through stress and simplifying. And observation, just pure observation, is void of judgment. And essentially that's what you've just described, is something that you can notice without the judgment. And that's it's clear, it's fundamental to that. I would love to know what your views are, especially around this season. The holiday times are definitely about connection for most people, and families come into that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that it's important for us to connect and possibly even reconnect with our families during this time. And because heart, you're talking about that, and you've just described the difference between something that's just surface as opposed to this depth and this real compassion and empathy. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're touching on a very good point. You know, connection is a vital need. It is caring and loving attention. In psychology today, there was a survey that was issued to find out the number one factor that caused happiness. And respondents consistently rated connection as number one. Connection to a love, to friends and family, love and intimacy, social affiliations, and even this ranked above fame or wealth and physical health. So connection is vital, it is important, and it contributes to happiness.
Do you feel that those that have, like, so the family, there's a lot of difficult times. I have had a background in as working with a lot of sexual trauma victims and people who have experienced a lot of heavy trauma in their childhood that's directly related to their families. I would like to know what your take is on bringing healing to oneself as well as to the family, and how important is that, if it is even important, to bring that connection back or to reconnect or to fully disconnect from that. What's your take on that?
I wouldn't say disconnect from it. I would say be assertive by valuing one's needs, and out of self-respect would be to set a very firm boundary. But yes, Stephana, I do think that it is very important to resolve unresolved heartache and to get to the pattern and to the core of what happened with regards to the abuse, how this happened. And this will affect the person in the way that they will seek to be loved. And it's important to learn that love is not only physical, it is an emotional security that is very important, which opens up a space to live from the heart. I would say this is very important. Now, forgiveness for oneself, to have allowed it, is an important factor. And if the other person can be together with the person who was abused and really redeem in one's heart and forgive themselves more, because the other person who has abused, if they are conscious about it, they will have a very difficult time in accepting and forgiving this also. So it's the two parties that are important. However, if this cannot be resolved because the person who was the abuser still lives in unconsciousness and has a closed heart, then I would say yes, definitely a boundary needs to be set out of self-respect. And now this person who has been abused will need to learn assertiveness. It's important. So connecting this way, if it's possible, great. And if not, self-respect becomes important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking us off. I mean, thank you for giving that piece there. I wasn't going to bring that up, but I felt it almost necessary for this moment. It doesn't necessarily relate to simplifying the holidays, but something that has triggered me now is that, what about connecting with our own selves and having and simplifying all of the things that we do outside of our own well-being?
You're touching on a very important point here. I had this woman, Sylvia, a brilliant woman, who came to see me, and she was challenged in connecting with the man that she was with. And what happened is that when a person is not heard or seen, it impacts their worthiness. And Sylvia, the way that she was talking to me, I could see and understand that she was not fully connecting with herself. So she was not only invisible for the man that she was with, but invisible for herself also. You know, there are 29 needs that make up the core need of connection. And so I started to teach her these, and she started to value them and starting to really find ways to fulfill them with herself to begin with and find that safety. And therefore, she was able to recognize that it was too much effort to connect with this man. So she set a firm boundary. And thereafter, in her relationship, she looked for ways to fulfill these connection needs. And with time, she did meet a sensitive man who valued togetherness. And to this day, they're still together and they were talking of getting engaged. But out of ignorance, when a person does not know what needs to fulfill, to be in touch with themselves, they will not know how to do it with another person. So when the information is given, something can be done.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That sounds like a wonderful Christmas gift. A wonderful gift for
Absolutely.
yourself and a wonderful gift for your partner. I mean, just as you were describing that, that
Yes.
sounds so beautiful. And for
But you know,
me,
Stephana,
what's that?
yeah, I just want to say something. It is not only with the partner that you're with, it also has an impact on your children, on
Sure.
the clients that you serve, because the more that you connect with yourself, the more empowered you are to connect from a loving and caring space with another
Yes.
person. People want to connect
Yes.
together and feel comfort.
Yes. Yes. I mean, this is everything that I do and what I stand for in my business and in my life. This piece about I don't call it connecting with yourself, but all of a sudden it's coming together as connect with your heart is truly connecting with yourself. And that to me is almost the epitome of simplifying the holidays and simplifying the exterior facade that we think is going to bring us happiness or bring us joy or bring us connection or bring us love that we desperately want, all of these things that we desperately want, but we're not getting them because of that one underlying core piece. Before we can even know what we value, we have to be able to connect with our hearts. And you've just given me
Yeah.
this that I mean, it's like a beautiful kind of a, I was going to say secret almost, but you didn't. You just shared the secret. You just shared this beautiful way, and it sounds like you have some exceptional tools that can really help one guide themselves safely
Yes.
through this
Well,
terrain, which gets really
yes.
scary
You
sometimes.
know,
Of like, what's right, what's right, what's wrong, what's right. I don't know, and well, there's some tools that you have clearly.
yes. And I
Yeah.
value structure a lot. So for me, when I do go there, this structure gives me the security that I will be able to resolve it and move on with it. And yes,
Nice.
if I don't take care of it, I know that I will encounter what I'm not taking care of. It will be given right back at me. So there, I'd rather feel in control and
Yes.
take care of it and attract this
Once
from life.
again, yes, and once again, this comes right back down to the principle of simplifying. We
Yeah.
can keep the simplicity of this by handling it before it becomes this very big, complicated issue,
Yeah.
before things get out of control and we're stressed and chaotic. When we come back to that and simplify, as I say that, simplifying sometimes has gotten into this word, well, it means nothing or it's not very important or big, but simplifying actually is very powerful.
It's
And
rich.
yes, and as you talk about connecting with your heart, you're talking about simplifying with your truth. Yeah, right? Am I on? I mean,
Yes.
it's so fun.
Yes.
I
You
love
know,
this kind of juicy, serendipitous, fun
it
discussion.
is. It
So,
is.
yeah.
It is what enables me to be very real and transparent with myself. And the more transparent
Nice.
I am with myself, the more authentic I will be in my relationship, and it will be very transparent.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That is beautiful. And what a wonderful gift. Would you mind just in the next few minutes sharing a little bit about what might be the biggest barrier? You mentioned a few of them, but is there just this one catalyst, this one major barrier for someone actually being able to connect fully with their heart? Maybe there's a few of them.
Yeah, there is. Okay, not having resolved something from the past is a barrier.
Okay.
Not being attentive, loving and caring attention for oneself is a major barrier. Not valuing your own needs, wants, and desires, not making you feel important for yourself is a very big barrier also. So how can a person value their own needs out of self-respect and respect for others when they're not in alignment with themselves? This will not put them in alignment with the flow of their life. So this is what is important. What is also important is, what is a barrier, is the ego, in the sense that the ego causes a division amongst people. And this gets mixed up in relationships, and this causes heartaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a barrier for sure. Not being open to learn about oneself, not valuing sensitivity is also a barrier. So living in the head, analyzing, trying to figure it out all the time is a major disconnection from the heart.
Yes.
Or only thinking that living is emotional energy and thriving on emotions is false. Is false.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think if we have the opposite of that, we can start to see what we could work on, or what areas are we might be having as difficulty. Would you end with just sharing a quick little bit about how we can get a hold of you? And I want to respect everyone's time and keep it right on this, but just share with us what someone could do to reach out if they wanted to work with you, or if they wanted to find out more about your work.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to help anyone who is listening here to feel more connected in their heart, especially during this Christmas period of time where love is really a heart opener. Everything that's going to happen, all the magic, it's so easy to open up. People, you can reach me at www.connectwithyourheart.com/discovery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yvonne. It's been such a wonderful treat. It's
You're
been so fun to
welcome.
actually listen to to listen from the perspective of an audience, and hear your words. As I do, I work with business clients, but it's so nice to actually hear how the tools of creating with our heart does expand out from our influence. Like you said, the family, our spouse, our partner, our coworkers, and our friends, and our people. And I can really feel the connection, the openness of your heart. So thank you so much for that, and for expressing your truth. It's quite beautiful.
You're welcome, Stephana. I want
Thank
to
you.
add that in business or in personal, I have the motto of saying, who I am follows me everywhere. So whether I'm working on a personal, heartfelt project of a woman, or her heartfelt desire to take her business to a next step, to be in alignment with oneself, and then to be in alignment with the flow of her life, it just opens up. So it's
Absolutely.
important, yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too, my dear.